Okay, welcome everybody. This is Joe Bullis. I am your MELS 601 clinical coach for Dr. Church's class. It is September the 11th, 2019. I hope you all had the opportunity to recognize today as Patriot Day and give thought to what happened September the 11th several years ago and had the opportunity to kind of do a little memory on that and just have a moment of contemplation for the victims and their families as they continue to struggle with what happened on that day. But we will get started. I am going to pull the schedule. I changed the schedule a little bit for tonight's session. We're going to talk about APSL Task 2, go over the Blackboard internship shell review if we need to. I'm not going to do task stream this evening. We had a faculty meeting Monday night, and based on the information that Dr. Lamb gave us at the online faculty meeting Monday night, task stream has not been opened up for you guys right now. So I'm going to wait until you have access to task stream and you can get into your accounts before we go over that. And that's fine. There's really no rush. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing at this point in time, and that's getting oriented to Dr. Church's course shell, getting oriented to my clinical internship shell, and just kind of getting the APSL Task 1 and Task 2 underway. So next time we meet, we'll be fine for going into task stream and taking a look at some of those things. So before we get started on any of that, I'm kind of open up the microphone, if you will, to you all to see it as anyone have any questions from the last 2 weeks or anything dealing with task 1.
Me.
Okay, sure.
All right. So when is the task 1 officially due? Because we sent our papers to our peer group for review. Mm-hmm. When is it officially due as the discussion board?
That would be in Dr. Church's course shell on his syllabus. The due date is there. I don't really set due dates because I play off of whenever the course instructor sets that date in their courses. I've got 3 course instructors that I'm clinical coach for, and so I don't set those dates. I just play off of them. So if you will, just check with Dr. Church on that. And sorry, I don't have that information for you. Somebody, let me check the chat box. September the 15th is the listed date. So thank you. I think it came in from Michael, September the 15th. So thanks for helping out there. All right. And Jessica, did you have something to say, or were you helping out with the date as well?
I was helping out, but my understanding is they're due Saturday night at midnight, but the syllabus says Sunday at 9 p.m. So that is a really good question. Somebody maybe needs to post in the discussion board to Dr. Church, because there is 2 different conflicting times and dates when things are due. So I have the same question.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Thank you so much for bringing that out as well. Yeah, somebody make sure I'll email Dr. Church and just let him know that you guys were seeking clarification on that. As a matter of fact, when we get off tonight, I'll either give him a call or text him, so it'll be on his radar. Maybe he can get that clarification out this evening. Okay, any other questions? If it is dealing with his course shell or any assignment that he gave you, I'm going to have to forward all those questions to Dr. Church, and I apologize for that. Like I said, I just kind of work with different course instructors. I don't work on the syllabus or their assignment. I'm mainly just do with task stream, your APSL task or your evidence task and things of that nature, and your internship hours. So any questions that I can help you with? Okay, well, I'll be sure and forward that question on to Dr. Church this evening. I wanted to go ahead and discuss with you regarding APSL Task 2 we'll go ahead and talk about that. And I'm just going to go ahead and pull up, I pulled up the scale handbook and going to go ahead, and I always work off the rubric. There's a lot of good information, as I've told you before that, but I find a lot of really, it's kind of summarized and succinct and to the point here, and this is kind of where I go to, especially when I'm giving feedback on papers. For this task, you're going to research all the available data at your school to determine the most pressing learning need. Now, when we're talking about learning need, that's when you look at all that data and you determine the gap in achievement or some type of learning gap that's at your school. It does need to be based on instructional, some type of curricular need, instructional need. I've had some candidates in the past. And I'm not discounting the fact that clean facilities, up-to-date facilities, nice landscaping, things of those natures do have a huge part in the success of a student and the student body and on the culture of the school. But for the ABSL, this is all about student learning. So you can pull any data that you would like to pull. If you're doing MTSS, you got intervention data. If you're PBIS, incorporated into that, attendance, discipline. Of course, you want to look at your EOC scores, your EOG scores. If you're doing NC check-ins, benchmarks, any type of formative assessment there, you want to pull all of that information together. And once you've collected that data, you need to convert that to a presentation as you lead your professional learning community group. Now, in task 1, you got permission from your principal to form a PLC. You selected the members of your PLC. You did research on what an effective PLC looks like. You pattern your professional learning community based on that research, and now you're getting ready to have your first meeting. So I would suggest that you do pull all the data together for your team members, have your professional learning community meeting, have it in presentation form, because that's an artifact. An agenda is an artifact. Minutes from the meeting's an artifact. And even you need to record this session if you can. I mean, put the camera up there and record this session and save it, because you can use that as evidence of your leadership, delegation, communication skills, all of those competencies that you'll be displaying. You can really produce some very hard artifact just by recording that professional learning community, or even taking a few pictures and saving those artifacts for your competency folio. Any data you use, if you do a presentation, and I know you're sitting there with your professional learning community, you're looking at students, you're looking at students' names, and you guys need to be able to communicate that. But if you take that and you put that into your narrative, into your document, or you put that in the presentation and you upload it to the course shell or the internship shell, you need to go ahead and make sure that you black out those student names. Don't need to identify any of those students. You can, if you need to talk about them and discuss them in the narrative, use student A or student 1. You can, of course, give their age range, grade level, but not their name. And as you look at this data, you should consider diversity in the need that you identify. Look at your subgroups. I know if you're a TSI school, then you were identified based on some subgroups performance. So that's data that you want to look at as well in the subgroup. So in prompt 1 of task 2 of the ABSL, you are to describe and give data collection strategies and criteria in the process of identifying the most pressing learning need, instructional need. You to lead a collaborative meeting where you analyze the data and discuss it. You can go in certainly with an idea of the direction that you want to go, but don't go in set on thinking, well, okay, our 4th grade reading scores are low. Our 4th grade math scores are high. Our 4th grade reading scores are low. So that's what we need to have. That's the need that we need to identify. That's the gap that we need to work towards. wait until you get all that data together and you have that conversation with your professional learning community. And as a group, you look at that data and then you dig down into it. Okay, fourth grade reading scores are low. Is it a particular subgroup? Is it a particular classroom? Is there a particular diversity in that classroom? Is one teacher doing really good? Is one teacher not doing good? Dig down deep into that, but you as a team determine the need, what the need is that you choose to address with this APSL. There's a lot of value in that conversation, and you facilitating that meeting and leading that that collaborative inquiry. You doing that is really going to show your leadership skills, and that's what this is all about. Each one of these evidences are designed to give you some relevant experiences in the way of administration and give you the opportunity to kind of focus in and your leadership skills and show those leadership skills in your evidences. So you lead the discussion, you facilitate that meeting. You'll conclude the session by agreeing on a specific need. As I said, it's recommended that you videotape this or record this in some fashion. If you don't want to do that, your members of your team don't want to do that. If your team members don't want to be in the video, which I've seen that before, then just put the camera on you doing the presentation. Or if you just want to show some photographs, or if you assign somebody to be a scribe and have them record the minutes of the meeting. But you're going to need some artifacts coming out of these meetings that you can use later on. Now, once you've got the data together, once you meet with your professional learning community, and once you guys identify the gap that needs to be addressed, then you are to graphically present the data in a narrative form in your documentation. You need to present that in the form of graphs, tables, charts. These visuals are to be used to illustrate and support the data analysis and the conclusion. So whatever you choose, whatever data that pops out to you guys the most, that you want to say, okay, well, this is why we are focusing on this gap. This shows us what our identified need is. Then you need to represent that in narrative form, in your narration, in your narrative, in the form of graphs, charts, tables. Show that data to the reader. Show that data in your document. And looking at emerging, developing, and proficient, of course, to pass for licensure throughout the program. Each task you do needs to be rated at proficient or higher. So to score at least a 3, with of course emerging being 1, developing being 2, proficient 3, and accomplished 4. To score at least a 3 here, you need the description of the data collection strategies. What strategies did you use? What data did you pull in? How did you get that data? How did you present it to your group? How did you arrange it for presentation to the professional learning community? And the criteria and the process of identifying the most pressing need. Just tell that story. Tell that story of how your group got together and how you guys came up with this the specific need that you want to address. The data needs to be graphically represented in the narrative, like I said a while ago. Charts, tables, graphs illustrate and support your data analysis and the conclusions that you drew from it. Provide evidence that you can effectively lead a collaborative professional learning community meeting where the data is analyzed and discussed, and concluding with identification of the specific needs. So like I said, this is all about you showing your leadership skills. Now, to get a 4 on this, you do all of that. Really, the only difference here, if you'll just look at the bottom of the screen or at that column, the only difference here is that you show leadership and proficiency, but you show strong leadership and accomplished. So the evidence demonstrates academic needs assessment and a strong professional PLC leadership. That puts you in the accomplished column. I think to do that, it is powerful if you do that in the form of, videotaping your professional learning community meeting. I think videotaping that meeting, if for some reason you guys are out of school when your PLC meets, you can do a Zoom and do like we're doing, record that meeting. But you showing that you led that meeting You don't have to be accomplished to pass the program and to get your licensure. You can only be a proficient, but I know you guys are high flyers, as Dr. Church said, or you wouldn't be here. So you're probably shooting for that accomplished column. To do that, you're really going to have to show strong leadership in facilitating this meeting. I'm going to pause at this point in time and see if there's any questions. Okay, very good. There is some, I think I sent to you guys, Dr. Stedman put out some helpful hints for the different tasks. And I think I sent that to you in the form of an email, but I pulled those up regarding task 2. You know, organizing your document is beneficial for the reader, beneficial for the evaluator. They shouldn't have to look and hunt for the information. So I think Dr. Stedman said maybe a subheading for the first part of the prompt. You could use a subheading, data collection strategies. You work with your professional learning community team, determine the strategies that be used to collect the data to determine the most pressing need for improving student achievement in the school where you are interning. The next subheading could be criteria and process for identifying the most pressing need. And I'm just going over the notes that Dr. Stedman put out, that I put out, just kind of giving you a little more direction on how to organize your document here. I'm not going to read all of that. The next subheading should be collaborative data analysis. So when you do your document, have your cover page. And I would recommend that you get your cover page, go ahead and put your cover page and your student profile and maybe keep it in a separate file, because you can use that same cover page and that same school profile throughout the program. Just, of course, change the as far as the cover page, change it from Absol Task 1 to Absol Task 2, so on and so forth. And once you do a good job on writing up the demographics of your school or your setting, you can use that at the beginning of each of your documents, because for the reader to get a good clue of what you're looking at, you need to describe your culture to them. You need to describe the demographics of your school, the demographics of the community. We kind of already talked about that last week. So each one of these tasks needs to have a cover page and then begin with the school profile. Then after the school profile, the next heading should be the data collection strategies. And then your next heading should be criteria and process for identifying the most pressing need. Your next heading should be a collaborative data analysis. Then once you've done that, you have addressed this task. And I would put in a summary paragraph. I think it also gives you opportunity to show leadership as you kind of summarize what happened, summarize each of those headings and the information you put in those headings, and just kind of bring closure to that document before you do your reference page. And I'm sorry, and that's dealing with prompt 1. You don't have to do a summary paragraph for the end of prompt 1. Once you do prompt 1 and 2, the summary paragraph can come at the bottom of the 2 prompts. So for prompt 2, remember you to graphically represent the work that you described in prompt 1. And that show your charts, show your tables, show your graphs. That's all visual representations of what you pulled in. And also shows throughout all of this program, digital learning competencies are intertwined. And by you taking that data and putting it into the form of a table, a chart, or a graph, that satisfies some of those digital learning competencies of being able to do that and putting that into your document. So once again, make sure you use APA manual for labeling and identifying your figures, your graphs, your charts. There is a form that you use once you put a visual representation into your narration. There is a APA form that you use. You don't just put that figure in there. You introduce the figure, you label the figure. The first one that you show is figure 1. If you go from a figure to a table, then it would be figure 1, table 1. Or if you do 2 figures, then you have figure 1 and you have figure 2. But you introduce that figure or that visual representation in your narrative, introduce it, talk about it, tell the reader what the important parts of that graph is showing what you pulled out of it and why you selected it to put into your document. So that you have to do that in order to introduce that graph. And then at the end of all the tasks, prompt 1 and prompt 2, then you do your summary paragraph. You have your reference page. Make sure you use APA format on that. If you have any appendices, you do APA format on that. And then that wraps up APSL task 1 and task 2. So, excuse me, APSL task 2, prompt 1 and prompt 2. So an APSL task 2 is where you have your first official meeting to look at the data. And this is where you're setting up for your next task, and that is once you've identified that need, how are you going to address it? And we'll talk more about that next time. So are there any questions about APSL task 2? All right, so before...
Sorry, I do have a question. I was trying to unmute.
That's
All
okay.
right, so I just want to make sure that I understand. The summary come in after prompt 2, but you want to include the information in prompt 1 and prompt 2 in that summary.
Yeah, just kind of think of it as you know, one whole paper. Task 2 is, and as you address prompt 1, the things that prompt 1 wants you to address and prompt 2 wants you to address, then you can conclude both of those at the end of prompt 2. So yes, you are correct in what you said.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to move over to, well, let me ask you this before we move over into kind of doing a review of the clinical coach internship. Shell, how's your internship hours going? Are you okay? I see. I saw a thumbs down. So talk to me a little bit about, are you getting some opportunities to log those? Are there any questions on what you count, how you should count it, how you should use the form? What have you got going on there?
Actually, we were shut down for a week because of a hurricane, so I haven't had any opportunities yet. Right.
And I hope everybody came through that okay. There's it has been a crazy several days here at the house. I haven't even watched the news. I didn't get to watch any of the news coverage this weekend, so I hope you all are safe. I meant to say that at the very beginning. I hope you all stayed safe. I hope if there was damage, I hope it was at a minimum. Well, you know, and I understand that completely, and that's, you know, that's some of the things to keep in mind. If you come short on hours, you know, let me know about that. We understand that. We understand that, you know, if the school's shut down for a whole week, you're not going to be able to do those opportunities like you would if it was open. I hope you guys are all back in session now. But your site supervisor, are they working with you? Or are you kind of set up to kind of log those hours? Do you have any questions about the form?
I don't have a question about the form, but my administration, when they provide feedback, is not in the form of the email which I originally sent. Is like verbal, because I'll go and say, well, did you receive the email of me of my request to start a PLC? Or I received it, you know, that's fine, go ahead, but they're not responding back to the emails. So how do I address that?
Yeah, just put that in the narrative. I mean, obviously, if you get the PLC going and you have all the other artifacts, then it's going to be inferred that you've got permission to do that. Just in your narrative, just say, you know, the candidate met with the administrator, the principal, to discuss the APSL and discuss the need to form a professional learning community. At that point, the principal gave permission to do so. So
Okay.
just you know, kind of tell how it happened. And I think I told this group, like I said, I've got 3 or 4 cohorts I'm working with. It's hard sometimes for me to remember who I've told what. Did I tell you guys to make sure as you write your narrative to do it in third person?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I got a question today, and I thought I had told one group that. So yeah, just make sure, you know, in a professional document. And you know, as if any of you are English teachers, then you know when you get a paper and it's I, we, our, it kind of becomes very repetitive and it just looks more professional to write in the third person. So good on that. Any other questions or anybody having any need any
I've got a
guidance?
question.
Sure.
So is it possible if I was on a summer curriculum team that could count? As
If you
far
are
as
on a summer curriculum team?
if I was on a summer, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can. If you're doing some things that you did some things this summer to
Yeah.
get prepared for the school year, yeah, we do count those. And probably this, and it's kind of a fine line because as you progress from 601 is in the fall, 602 is in the spring, and you'll be doing 603 during the summer session. So there's kind of a line. Anything before August would need to be count. If you were in summer school, or the summer session of Gardner Webb, none of you have been. So we'll let you count any preparation you did for this school year. For this school year, you can count those hours. If it was kind of wrapping up something that did last year, like you were doing inventory for the 18-19 school year, probably wouldn't be able to count that. But anything that helped to prepare for this school year, you can count those hours.
How do those clinicals work over the summer? So if like for the last, so when we go in the summer when we're doing our classes, how do we do those clinicals?
Yeah, good question there. What we'll do, 603 is kind of designed to be done during the summer. You can get a lot of 603 accomplished before the end of school. So you can kind of set it up. If you have professional learning community meetings, they can be done via email, and I'll get to the internship hours here in a second. But they can be done email. You can do Zoom. You can do a lot of the front end work before the summer break, and then just kind of write it all up during the summer. Now, as far as your internship hours goes, when I came through Gardner Webb, we had to do. I'm trying to remember. It seems like. Gosh, I can't remember how many I think it was like 150 a semester. And what I did in the summer, after the work days, after the teacher work days, I went to my principal and I said, hey, I'm going to be here from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday of the next week. What do you need me to do? And I was able to knock a lot of them out then. So I volunteer, go into school, and kind of knock out some of your hours there as well. If any of you are, I know a lot of times you may be involved in, Summer Academy, the Read to Achieve program. Then if you do any kind of leadership things there, you can count that too. But I would work during the work days and even after the work days, volunteer a few days to get those done. You don't have to do 100 and 150 like I did. You don't have to do 80. So you could knock those out, in a few days.
What if, can you hear me?
Yeah, I sure can, Gina.
Okay. What if you do summer camp in the summertime, but it's at another site? It's not at your site where our principal, our mentor is.
Sure, that's okay. That's still good leadership opportunity there. You can count that. You sure can.
Okay.
Good question.
I have a question. So you said if we're doing something that's within our normal role in the school, but it's in a leadership capacity, we can count that as internship hours, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just wondering because we run a whole band festival that is a massive. I don't know. I can't count all the hours towards that, but the amount of time I put into that is ridiculous. So anyway, I was going to count as much of that as I could towards this, of course, double the time there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I understand that, and yeah, that'll work. That will work.
That's definitely leadership, I feel.
Oh yeah, it is.
All the time I've spent with that. So anyway, thank you.
I understand completely what you're saying. One of the areas that I do several things for Wilkes County Schools. I'm also the cultural arts director, so I help with the band directors, the choral teachers, music and art. So I understand.
All your schools will actually be at our competition that I'm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think all your high schools will be there. So, yes, and I've actually helped. Is it North Wilkes that's starting a competition this year? I've actually kind of coached them along because it's a new director, and I've kind of coached him a lot and shared a lot of information with how we structure ours so they can structure theirs and whatnot. So
great, I appreciate that. Yeah, we've got 3 new band directors this year. Yeah,
Well,
so I really appreciate
you have a nice new ones, but yeah, I just want to make sure because I'm certainly putting in a lot of time in that direction because that's what I do, and I just want to make sure it can count on my internship hours.
If you as you write them up and as you fill that form out, now remember you keep logging these and there is a formal process to get feedback. It's not in the internship shell, it is in TaskStream, and we'll go over that later. You don't officially turn these hours in until the very last program, MELS 605. Now you have to do 80 per semester. You can't wait till the last semester of the program and do them all in one semester. You have to do 80 per semester. But as far as turning them in, because that's part of your licensure and getting your licensure as an administrator, but you don't officially turn them in to the end of the program. Before that, you turn them in to me formally at the very end of the semester. But even before that, if you have any questions, if you're filling out that log sheet, you want me to take a look at it, look at your hours, make sure that you're heading in the right direction, just email me and send it to me as an attachment, and I'll be happy to look over it for you. That is not a problem. And, email me anytime. If you need to do a private Zoom session or your peer group wants to get together and have a small group Zoom session with me, that's fine too. Just let me know ahead of time. Give me a couple of days to schedule it out, and I'll be happy to do that with you as well. We're purposely kind of letting you see more and more each week, just because that way you won't be overwhelmed and you'll kind of get into the routine as we show you more and more things that as part of the program. But just make sure that we support you, that all that we need to, and that's my main role, is to be your support structure and to help you get through this and to help solve problems, guide you, give advice, and things of that nature. I'll be happy to do that. Now that this ABSL task 1 date, and I will contact Dr. Church and ask him for clarification as soon as we get off of here. But as that deadline's approaching, you get your peer review, you do your peer review, you got review from your peers on task 1. It's good to go. You turn it in to Dr. Church. He gives you some review, and then he says, okay, this is good, ready to go to Dr. Bullis. Now, we went over this last week, but I'm going to go over it again because I feel like repeating and showing it over and over can help everybody get this process down pat. You go into, oh, excuse me. Let me pull out of here. Well, I'll hit the right button here in a second. Okay. So you go into your Gardner Web Connect, sign on, click on clinical or internship, Bullis. This is your clinical internship shell. Let me expand all that. Okay. You pull that out. You got your task 1. You want to get some feedback on it. You want to do the final steps that you need to do to kind of wrap up task 1 and be done with it and get it graded for me. So you take that task 1 after Dr. Churches gave you feedback, you revise it, you take that task 1, you come into you leave that course shell, you come into your internship shell. You need to post it to review first. Remember, there's 2 separate sections here. There's an ABSL task for review and an ABSL evaluation drop box. The ABSL task for review is where you get some final feedback from me. We get it in really good shape. We make sure in this area right here, we make sure that it is 3 or higher as far as the rubric goes. So I'll give you feedback. Usually it's just one time. Sometimes I may we may have to go back and forth a couple of times. Usually I can give you everything I need for feedback. Now, when I give feedback, this is what I do, is once you post that and upload it to the task for review, I pull that document onto my computer, I open it up in Microsoft Word, and then I go to the comment section where it says view and insert comments, and I will put comments in the margin within your paper where there's items that I feel like you need to address. Now, it's not all revision. A lot of times I say, hey, this is a great idea. It's just me talking to you and using that format to do it in. If I feel like it's good, or I feel like you've hit the rubric, I'll say rubric met for this area. But that way you can read through your document, and some clinical coaches, they'll do everything in the discussion board, and they'll kind of list their feedback in that little window, that comment window. I believe in you seeing exactly in your document where I'm giving you feedback. So I'll do that. I'll save a copy for my records. Then I will reply to you in the task for review, and I will attach a version of your document with my comments included. So sometimes I'll just say, thank you, please see the comments in the attachment. So you open it up in Microsoft Word, and you can read my comments and revise from there. Once we get it revised, and once all the feedback's given, and once you've got a final version and it's ready to be graded in the internship shell, I will say ready for Dropbox. So you take that document at that point in time, that final draft, and then you drop it in here for grading. I will look over it one more time just to make sure, because a lot of times you're going to have like 2 or 3 versions of task 1, 2 or 3 different drafts. A lot of times somebody will upload the wrong draft. They meant to upload the final draft, and instead they uploaded their first draft. And so I always do a final check to make sure it's good to go there. And once you get 100 from me in the internship shell, then that task 1 is done. And you can kind of set that aside for now. Now we'll be using that again, because once you get all the tasks done for the ABSL, there are 5 tasks. This is getting your PLC good to go, doing the research, having that first meeting where you discuss the purpose of the mission of the PLC. This is what we just talked about, the data collection, identifying the need, doing the needs assessment. Then you're going to have do an action form here, you're going to do research best practices here, do an action form here, and then reflect on your leadership in task 5. And you'll get a grade for each of these. At the end of the ABSL, you should have 600 points in the grade center based on the ABSL, 100 points for each of these. And then once you finish task 5, I'm going to tell you, you need 1 cover letter, your school profile, and then take all of these tasks and just make it one flowing document. One flowing document, put all the appendices at the ends, put all the references at the end, and just take each of these tasks and make one complete document out of it. And then you upload it for the final evidence. This is your final version of the ABSL, where all the tasks are included in one paper, in one document. You get a grade for that. Then when you get a grade for that, then you will submit it to TaskStream, which I'll talk to you about later on, but you'll submit it to TaskStream, and that's where it will sit to be evaluated for licensure. So I want you to think of this. There's really 3 platforms that you work under in Gardner Webb. You work in your core shell. Now, for your core shell, that kind of satisfies the university's requirement to give you a diploma so you can graduate the program. That's your coursework. The things you do in the internship shell and TaskStream, those are the things that's getting you ready for licensure. So you have to accomplish really 2 major tasks here. You have to get a diploma from the Gardner Webb so you can get your master's degree, but then you also have to get licensed by the state of North Carolina or South Carolina, depending on where you're at, to get your superintendent's license, which is your administrator's license. And so to be a principal, assistant principal, superintendent, so on and so forth. So you have to satisfy the requirements in the core shell, satisfy the requirements of the internship shell. And really, the internship shell is just getting you ready to make sure everything is good. So when you submit it to task stream, you're ready to get your license as we progress through the whole program. So that's kind of the three things that you're going to be submitting your documents to and your artifacts to. And we will go over all this again. All of it, we'll go over it again until you're tired of hearing it and you have the process. And from the looks on some of your faces, I can tell that maybe you're already tired of hearing it. Well, just bear with me, because I just want to make sure that you get this process down pat. Because as Dr. Church said, this is the toughest semester. The process will never change after this semester, just the activities that you engage in will change. So that's why we make sure you got a strong foundation. So are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
With the peer review, at the top of the sheet, it asks for a link. Is that link for the peer review itself, or is it for the Zoom conferences?
Great question. That link is the YouTube link where you recorded your Zoom session with your peers, and then you take it over to YouTube and get, when you drop it into YouTube, it processes it and then it gives you a link, and that's where you insert that link. That's how most course instructors do it, and based on what I know from working with Dr. Church in the past, that's what he wants to see there. So I don't have any reason to believe it would be a different link. But I always put that disclaimer there because I work with so many different course instructors, and each of them do things a little bit different to satisfy the requirements. So, yes.
So going back to the last question you had asked us if we had any questions, but we went on to something else. But my principal, she said on the 16th she'll get with me. She already gave me the okay. She put that in the email. But she said on the 16th she'll get with me on what can I do and things such as that, but not this week.
Okay, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that does happen. You're really at the mercy of your principal, and they've got a high quality individual going to the graduate school to get their licensure in school administration. So they're thinking, okay, how can I use this person? They're going to be doing some things anyway. How can I use that to benefit the school? And your principal may give you the directions, and that's fine. Work with your principals, because, at the end of the day, you've got to keep that principal happy. And so work with them and just make sure that you let us know these things. Like, the reason if you're going to be late in a task and it's because, maybe the school was closed for a week because of Dorian, or maybe your principal is saying, okay, yeah, you can do a professional learning community, but I know what area I want you to do it in, and I know where I want you to look. Just let us know those things like you are now. Email Dr. Church, let him know if you're not going to be able to get that task done in time. Just let Dr. Church know and let him know why. We'll work with you. And so if your says, I'm not going to meet with you to the 16th, you say, okay, thank you, sir. I'll be happy to meet with you.
And I did give her the sheet so she'll be aware of what type of things. Like 2 days ago, I asked her if I could start assisting with buses, and she was like 1 week at a time. So I guess she's sticking to the 16th. But yeah, so that was a thing. And then my other question was, I remember you guys mentioning something about open house. I didn't know if those hours would count or not.
They do. If you do any facilitation at open house, parent night, back to school, you can certainly count those. And one of the things I did want to say, this is a safe environment. This is when we used to do face-to-face classes, and we'd sit there for have a 3-hour class, and we'd have a lot of conversation and talk about scenarios and stuff. I always started off saying, you know, what we're doing now is like Vegas. What's done in Vegas stays in Vegas. What's said here stays here. So just be mindful of that. It didn't happen in any of my classes, but I had a colleague of mine was teaching the course, Dr. Jeff Peel. He used to be Associate Superintendent Alexander. He's retired now, but he was teaching a course, and somebody had said something. There was a situation that occurred with the principal, and they kind of talked it out in the class about what had happened. Well, before that candidate got home, their principal was calling them saying, "What were you saying about me in that class?" So nobody wants to be in that position. So you're in a safe environment here to discuss and talk about some of the challenges that you're facing. But let's just all agree, just think of this as a PLC norm and protocol. We just all agree that what's said in here about our particular schools, whether it be negative or critical comment, then we just make sure it stays here.
Also, sort of going on what Centralis, if I'm saying it properly, Centralis, mentioned, I talked to my principal last week, and I told her, all the people, my selection committee for the PLC, and we discussed everyone, and why I thought each person would be beneficial to us. However, I have a sort of diverse group. It's not like just my 5th grade team, because I really was paying attention to, the research. Sure. I did a doodle, a survey, and I contacted all the people. And so I'm in the process of creating a meeting. However, I've already done the agenda, and what the focus will, hopefully the focus will be, of course, introducing the PLC and what our mission, creating a mission statement together, and our norms and things of that nature. So I put all of that in my task 1. Do I not turn in my task 1, or do I turn it in with what I have, saying that the meeting will be, so and so and so forth, and with the agenda and all the basic technologies that I've used to create this up and coming meeting, and just turn that in and then add it as a whole later on, or do I just wait to turn it in?
Excellent question. I'm so glad that you brought that up, Jenny. Yes, that is perfectly fine. If you got everything ready to go, and your principal says, "Well, wait, I want to attend the meeting," or everybody's, we can't meet this week, it'll have to be next week.
Right.
And that happens. That happens all the time. Just write that in the narrative, and provide the agenda and what that you've got set up and the steps that you took, and just put the meeting was unable to to happen for this reason, but the meeting will occur September the 23rd at 3 o'clock or what have you. And then when you do then later on, you can go back and put it in task 1, and we can go ahead and maybe by the time we get the revision to where you start revising it with me, you will have had the meeting, and you can go back and add it later on. And just as long as I know that's the case ahead of time, then that's fine. We can go back and add the outcome of that meeting when it occurs, because we don't want to do anything right now to kind of slow you down.
Right.
Whatever momentum you've got going at this time, we want you to continue to do that. So we'll work with you in situations like that. Great question. Yeah, it's a good questions. You guys are coming up with some great scenarios tonight. All right. Is there anything else that I can help you with?
I do have 2 questions.
Sure.
One, in addition to whatever assignment my mentor is going to give me, can I use my experience I'm on behavioral team at the school. Mm-hmm. Can I use that experience, like as far as PD sessions? If the team conduct a PD session, I'm on that team and we have to present. Can I use that as hours?
Yes, you sure can.
Okay, and I'm the team lead on my grade level. Can I use those meetings as part of that as well?
Yes, you can. Anything that gives you the opportunity to display leadership or puts you in some kind of administrative role, you
Okay.
can. Now remember, and I kind of there's a fine line there.
Mm-hmm.
Can't count 80 hours of bus duty. You can't count 80 hours worth of PBIS or intervention meetings. So just kind of know that at some point in time you've gained all the experience that you can gain from that, even though you may still have to continue that role. You can only count that so many times, so
Mm-hmm.
just kind of keep that in mind. But everything
Okay.
that you just told me sounds great.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Alicia, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And I am not as good as Gina on pronouncing your first name, so I'm going to call you Ms. Adams until I practice that a little bit longer.
She did a great job. It's Centralis. Yeah, so I was just wondering, so even though I'm not on the sit team, so if sometimes I just volunteer to go in and just, interject, because I do have a lot of great, like I like to speak a lot. I'm usually like the one doing the most talking. Is that okay if I count that like spending the 40 minutes there, and I'm actually, because I want to actually be there sometime, even though I don't have to, so I was just wondering if
Absolutely.
if I have 1 or 2 hours of that on there, is that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah. Even if you want to go to a board meeting,
Okay.
we had our board meeting Monday night. If you want to go to a board meeting and just kind of, just for the experience of being
Yeah.
in a board meeting and writing up that experience, and that could be even as you reflect on competencies later on, you could even use that. But absolutely. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Okay, it is 8:22, so we're getting down to our hour. I'll be happy to stay and answer any questions that you have, any final questions, or if anybody needs to see me individually, we can do that too. Just let me know.
I have another question before we wrap up.
Sure.
For the Zoom, how do you, with our free, because we had a meeting last night, our group did. I just had another question run through my mind. Sorry, squirrel. But how do you, first of all, our free Zoom is like only 30 minutes.
Oh, really? I thought it was 45.
No, it's 30.
Okay.
Unless we did it wrong, but
No, they may have changed it. Yeah, I haven't been on the free for some time, so.
Okay, and it timed us out at 30. And also, how do you and I know it's probably somewhere for me to read it, but us educators don't like to read, but we make kids read. No, I'm just joking. But how do you actually save it to, because I don't think I saved it properly, because I ended up being the host and I don't think I saved it properly, and I'm just frightened that we won't have a link to put on YouTube.
Okay, usually when you finish the Zoom recording, a box will open up, a window will open up, and it'll convert. And once it opens up and the little bar is all filled in, it's completed, another window will open up and it'll show all of your Zoom files. Sometimes you can click on that particular file and it will open up, but many times you can't. And if you click on that file and click OK, it disappears. At that point in time, let's see if I can do this. To find that on most computers, and I work on a Windows platform. So if you have a Mac, I'm not sure if it would be the same. But in the Windows platform, if that happens and you want to find that file, just click and open up, go to Documents, and I'm hoping you guys can see this okay. And
Yes.
I'm sorry, let me do that again. Don't access it here. access this this file down here. I've got it on my my taskbar here.
Mm-hmm.
Open that up, go to documents from this, and then at the end of documents, you'll see a folder. You should see a folder that says Zoom. So you open up Zoom, and here are all of your files that you have done Zoom recordings with. So if this is from well, this is, let me get it right here. Okay, right. Open up that file. Okay, I don't have anything here because we're still recording. So let me close out that. Let me get an old file up. Okay. Okay. You'll open up that file and it will have, I think it'll have audio, which just plays the, you know, of course, the audio. I think this is just visual. It just shows the picture but no audio. And this is if there's any chats, it records all the chats. But then you'll have this, and I can't remember. I think this just says Zoom. I always click on it twice slow so I can retitle it, and I'll put my title here, and then I'll click enter, and this is that recording. At that point in time, I'll minimize my window. I'll go to YouTube. Okay, in my YouTube account, I'll put create a video. So I'll open that up. Okay, then I'll bring back my Zoom file and I will click, drag, and drop. Okay, and then it'll process there, and then they'll give you the link once it processes. So once again, to find that file, I always open up my Documents, File Explorer, go to Documents, scroll down to, whoops, excuse me, scroll down to Zoom, and whatever the date is there, that's where that file should be located. It saves it automatically to that.
Okay.
So if you forget that or want to go back, just go to the recording. It's about 8:27, so you know, about 53 minutes into, or 55 or whatever minutes into the this recording, you can go back and look at that process. Oh, thanks, JD Jones. On Mac, it's under the Finder. Be the same as you were saying on PC. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that input. Okay, good question. If you have problems with that, Gina, when you're trying to do that or find it, we'll do a Zoom session, and you can show me on your screen, and I can help you if need be.
Okay.
Or anybody else that's having a problem with that process.
Thank you.
Question.
You're welcome. Yes.
And the turnaround time shouldn't matter, because I know my group, I was looking at us, I sent out an email today trying to get up with my group, and I think we came up with Thursday, but I'm gonna wait for them to reply back Thursday, sometime Thursday night. So should that be plenty enough time to have it turned around to two Zooms to submit?
I think so. Yeah, you're talking about tomorrow evening, right? Yeah,
Right.
I think you'll have plenty of time to get it all
Okay.
done by then. Yeah, should.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we are adults and different timings and having to do different things, just trying to get everyone together. And then,
That's one of the good things about Gardner Webb, is that we understand you've got a job, you've got a family, you've got commitments that, outside of Gardner Webb. You got, I was coaching 3 sports and had a brand new baby in the house when I went through my master's. So I remember what those days are like. And my professors at that time were really flexible and worked with us, and I haven't forgotten that. And I'll work with you any way I can, as long as I understand the situation, and as long as we're all putting in the effort, we'll get there. That's a guarantee. That's a guarantee. Yeah, we deal with this. This is I think I told you, this is my 13th year being an adjunct professor with Gardner Webb. So things like this come up every semester that we just work with it the best we can. So
and
good.
I have one more question. I know you're tired of me. I'm sorry, y'all.
No, now's the time to ask.
Our group is what we did. We split up like when one paper went to one person and we did it that way. Is it okay if just those two people do the Zoom peer review, or do we have to have all four of us on one Zoom, the whole group?
Now, I'm speaking from memory here because this is another one of those areas that Dr. Church kind of supervises. And if I remember correctly, if not this semester in this cohort, he said it to a previous cohort because somebody asked that same question and he was okay with that. Okay. So I feel like you're in good shape there. Might be a good idea to shoot him a quick email and just kind of get confirmation on that. But I remember that conversation occurring sometime in the past and he was okay with that.
Okay.
All right, we're at 8:30, so our hour's up. But once again, if you have any questions, I'll stay with you as long as we can help you.
I had a question for you.
Sure.
I emailed my principal and, I was giving her my idea of what I wanted to do for the PLC, or inquired as to, based on our school scores for the testing last year, what we probably needed assistance with. But she wants to see an outline plan. I'm like, well, how am I going to keep planning this? If I, how can I give her a plan and I don't know what I'm planning for? Like, I don't know. So I felt like, maybe I should have some idea or direction. So I met with, I think, what's his name, Mr. Robertson today, Mark, and he was saying that I should send it around the academics, the core curriculum. So since I took the Read to Succeed, I was thinking of how we could probably do to bring up our literacy scores, reading and writing, in order to maybe come up with a PLC that would incorporate the ELA teachers on different levels and also some of the other teachers, so that we could all be on the same page as far as increasing that literacy throughout our school. But I mean, as a exploratory teacher, I don't know if that was a good idea or not.
I think that's a great idea, and you just have that's the power of the group, and everything that you just told me, you need to include that in the narrative of that's
Okay.
that's how how this process is working out for you, and how you're coming to the direction and going in the direction that you are. You need to let that be shown in the narrative. But I think getting that group together, you're going to have some great, as an exploratory teacher, you're going to have a great learning experience on how to do that. Because when you become an assistant principal and a principal, I was an EC teacher and a resource teacher for years. And, I knew a little bit about each of the curriculum, but wasn't specific in anything. So I would have liked to have had some of these experiences that you guys are having, to being better prepared as the principal. So I think that's great.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and keep working with your principal. Reach out to your not your site supervisor, your clinical coach one. I guess that's Dr. Robertson is who you were referring to. He's very knowledgeable. He can be a good resource for you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, any other questions before we sign off? All right, I'm going to do the recording, convert it. I will send it to you via email. And remember, any recording that we do in my internship shell, you can find here in Video Library and under File, Semester File 19, and under this folder that says Bullis Church. You can find that. If you get bored one night and you want to go and see all the other ones from the past semesters, you're welcome to do that as well. So that's up to you. I hope you guys stay safe. God bless you all. I hope your family stays healthy and safe, and we will see you next time. Have a great evening. And thanks for your attendance this evening.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Likewise.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.